Welcome back to the 31 days of THORGIWEEN, everyone. And you know, so far this week, we've been having a lot of fun talking about horror films, and that's exactly why I love horror films. They're fun. They get your blood pumping, they get your adrenaline racing. Heck, even when they're bad, horror films tend to be hilariously stupid, so they're at least good for a laugh. But, you know, horror films can do more than that. They can do more than get your heart racing, make you laugh, make you jump. They can also make you emotional. They can also make you feel. They can also make you cry. And that's why today, we're talking about Train to Busan.
Train to Busan is a Korean zombie film about a businessman who has lost his connection with his daughter. He's missing all the important moments of her life as she grows up, so when he asks her what she wants to do, she tells him she wants to go and visit her mom in Busan. They board the train there and meet a variety of unique characters, only for a zombie apocalypse to break out. As they begin their journey, they start to hear about riots and disease-fueled attacks spreading at various stops, and it's only a matter of time before one of these infected zombies gets on the train.
Now, normally when I talk about a film, I start with the positives and I go into the negatives, but today, we're actually going to start with the negatives. Not because this film is bad, but for other reasons that will become obvious in a moment.
And honestly, the biggest problem with this film is that it's pretty cliche. Zombie films get criticized a lot for following a formula, and this one is no exception. The moment you meet these characters, you know who's going to die. You can guess how they're going to die. You can tell who's going to be the stereotypical jerk who gets paranoid, and you know he's going to turn the protagonist, and you know there'll be a scene where the protagonist has to make his way through a group of zombies. There's so much of this film that you can tell is going to happen before you even get to it. However, the reason why I wanted to start with the negatives is because there's no such thing as a flawless film. Almost no film is without problems. But what makes a film truly amazing is whether or not it can rise above those problems and make you forget them. And the answer with this film is a resounding yes. Yes, you might know these characters are going to die, but those moments are incredibly emotional. More so than any other deaths I've seen in a horror film. And a lot of that has to do with how good these characters are. There's a man who is about to become a father, and the interactions he has with our protagonist about being a dad is actually some of the best character work I've seen in a zombie film. There's a young kid and his girlfriend, and you really find yourself rooting for them to come out okay because it really feels like they care about each other. Heck, even the stereotypical jerk of this film has a moment where you kind of feel bad for him. Yes, this film follows many of the same cliches that so many other zombie films do, but these amazing characters and their interactions make you completely overlook that. And even though there are cliches in here, it's still very original. I mean, zombies on a train might sound like a joke at first, but it's actually kind of brilliant. Seeing these characters trapped in very small compartments with zombies makes you realize how slim their chance of survival is, and whenever a train becomes overrun with zombies, they then have to move into the next car, lowering the number of cars that they can run to. So each time that they have to escape, you know they're running out of places to hide, which is a great way of gradually increasing the tension that you feel all throughout this film. And every time that they come to a station, it lets you see just how much worse the situation has become. Like when they're on the tracks, they're separated from the rest of the world. But when they come to a station, you can see how much this disaster has spread, making you terrified to see how much worse it will become when they arrive at the next stop, but at the same time, hoping that stop will be a safe zone, someplace they can actually finally rest. And the zombies themselves are terrifying. You think fast-running World War Z-style waves of zombies are scary out in the open? Yeah, imagine that on a train with only one slim hall between you and the next car. Again, I thought this concept sounded crazy, but actually seeing it in execution makes you realize this is kind of the perfect setting for a zombie film. So this movie is original with great characters that makes you completely overlook all the typical zombie movie tropes, and the attachment that you will form with these characters will have you genuinely scared for them and will lead to many heartbreaks. But what takes the emotional cake in this film is the relationship between our protagonist and his daughter. In the beginning, he might seem like an absent father who doesn't have time for her, but as this movie goes along, you genuinely feel how much he cares for her. When he is trying to protect her, you feel his dedication. When he gets separated from her, you feel his terror at not knowing whether or not she will be okay. It's amazing to me that it took a zombie film to give me one of the best father-daughter stories I've seen in any movie. I've seen a lot of horror films, but none that have really emotionally affected me the way that this film did. By the end of this movie, I was a waterfall of tears. In fact, I'm not kidding you, when I had to go back to get clips for this to use in this video, I started tearing up all over again. So because this movie was able to touch me in that way, because it was able to have that effect, and because it was able to rise above the typical cliches that would drag down any other film like this movie is perfect! If you like this review, then hit that subscribe button, and follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/ProfessorThorgy. And remember, we're talking about scary movies and shows and games and comics almost every single day this month, and I guarantee you those videos will be way more upbeat than this one was. So if you want to see that, then hit that subscribe button. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and happy Halloween.